Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Curated Caregiver. I'm Donna Jackson, the adult caregivers coach, and today we have with us Marie Smith, special agent of the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations Financial Crime Investigations Unit. Hi, Marie. How are you?
Hi, Donna. I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm so excited about our discussion. Uh, I want to jump right in, and let's start with you telling me first about the SBI, State Bureau of Investigations Financial Crimes Unit.
Sure. So, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation is a state agency here in North Carolina. We have a financial crime investigations unit. We cover the entire state of North Carolina, and our job is to investigate large and complex financial crimes, whether that be an embezzlement from a small business, some sort of fraud. Often we are investigating elder exploitation, which in North Carolina, the statute for that, we call it um, exploitation of an older adult. So in North Carolina, that's anyone who's 65 years or older. So that's actually very young. And so that's something that we investigate in our unit. And it's also something that's just kind of near and dear to my heart.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you know that our podcast is focused on caregiving for that elderly parent, grandparent, or loved one. And so, yeah, we're going to target that audience today. Can we talk about what the anatomy of a scam actually looks like? Oh, and let me back up because the title of our segment is Grandma is a Money Mule. Um, yeah.
That's right.
Let's jump into that whole idea and what that actually means.
Yeah. So I think there's a preconceived notion that when somebody is scammed, there's only two people in that situation, the scammer and the victim. But the actuality is that typically scams are run by large criminal organizations, oftentimes ones that are overseas. And so it's not just one bad actor is calling grandma and scamming her on the phone or on the internet or whatever it happens to be, but it's actually usually a big criminal organization. So I think one thing that's interesting to understand about how scams really work is they're actually this large interconnected spider web of people. So you have your victim, we're going to call that grandma. So you have your victim, that's grandma, and she believes that, let's say, the person on the other end of the line is her new boyfriend, her new love interest. And so she talks to that person. They will have her send them money. um, they may send her money, and she believes that the money she's receiving from that person is from them. Maybe it's a boyfriend on an oil rig off the coast of some landlocked country, and she believes everything that they say. They want to start a new life together. They want to buy a big white house with the white picket fence, the American dream, whatever it happens to be. And so they say, Grandma, I need to send you some money. I'm going to have my cousin send you some money. That way, once I come back to the States, we can start our life together. Well, that money that grandma is receiving is not actually her boyfriend's money. That money is actually the money of another victim. So, what the scammers are doing these days is they are using other victims to launder their money. So, when grandma receives that money from Bob, Bob is not her boyfriend's cousin. Bob is another older adult, likely, who is maybe the victim of a lottery scam. He might think that grandma is the tax agent that he's supposed to send his money to before he gets his lottery winnings. So grandma starts out as a victim because she's sending all her money away. But eventually she kind of morphs into what we call a money mule. She's now the center person in this scheme. She's receiving money from Bob. She's sending it off to wherever her boyfriend told her to. And she doesn't realize it, but now she's helping to perpetrate the crime. Um, I think
Oh,
this is very important for people to understand because it's not just you that's being scammed or your loved one that's being scammed. It's a lot of people that are being scammed. This is a $1 billion industry for these criminal organizations. And what we don't want is for grandma to be caught in the middle of this. And one of the things that we've seen recently, unfortunately, is law enforcement, we're going out, we're trying to tell people you're being scammed, stop doing this, you're being scammed. Or maybe the bank is saying that, hey, you're being scammed, you got to cut this out. And they don't believe it. And we've seen older adults in well into their 70s and even 80s prosecuted. They become felons because they've been told over and over, don't be scammed, don't be scammed. You're receiving other people's money, and they continue to do it anyways, and they
Oh,
get charged for it and arrested, and they become felons. And so people just think that a scam is a two-person situation, and it's not. It's much bigger than that, and it has a huge trickle-down effect when somebody's receiving money from other victims, and so that's kind of what we want to stop.
wow. This is the first time I'm actually hearing this perspective on that. This is so good, Marie, and I know other people are gonna say this is gonna be really eye-opening for them and helpful.
Yeah,
We often talk about the, sociological and psychological reasons why people are drawn to these scams, right?
yeah,
But what we don't talk about is the criminal aspect of it and how the person who is a victim then becomes a criminal. Wow!
yeah.
I never heard of that.
I helped out with a case that came out of another state where a victim in a state up north had his, I think his email had been hacked and his pension fund had been completely drained,
Oh, no.
like $400,000, a lot of money. He was ready to retire. He was like
Oh.
days away from retirement, and his pension fund is all of a sudden zero. So this state calls us and says, hey, could you help us out? All of this victim's money was received by an individual in North Carolina. And we think that she was likely a victim initially of some sort of scam, but now she's turned into the mule. And so after a little bit of research, we figured out that this lady in North Carolina who was in her 70s, she had been talking to someone online, a boyfriend, and she has never met this person. And she believed everything that he said. And he said, I need to send you some money. I need you to open up a separate bank account. Sometimes they have their victims create businesses for them. And so she received all of this money from this man's pension. Now, her bank told her, you're being scammed. Two different police departments showed up and said, you're being scammed, and now you're receiving other people's money. You got to cut it out. She had been cut off by probably six different banks. She was traveling all around the area as far as an hour away from her home to open new
Mm.
bank accounts. And so when the police said, hey, you're being scammed, now you're receiving other people's money, you got to stop, you're going to get in trouble. She said, he's the only one who shows me any attention, and I'm going to keep doing what he asked me to do.
Mhm,
She
mhm.
said, I'm stubborn. I really like him. I, I'm just stubborn, and maybe it's not real, but I'm again, he's the only one that shows me attention. I'm going to keep doing what he says. And so at the point that I got involved, this other state, they're ready to charge her
Mhm.
for participating in this crime. And that's exactly what they did. And so she was
Yeah.
charged with money laundering, she was charged with fraud. And at 70 something years old, she had to travel out of state up north and appear in court to answer these charges. And she's now a convicted felon.
Is she in jail?
No, she didn't have it. She didn't get a jail sentence. She did get probation, and she was ordered to pay restitution for about $15,000. So she received all the money in, and then she sent it out based on what her boyfriend told her to do. The only money that she actually kept was about $15,000. So that was her benefit of the whole scam. But when we told her that she had to appear in court, that she, had these charges against her and she had to appear in court, her only concern was asking, "Is my boyfriend gonna be there?" And we're
Oh,
like, ma'am, he's not real. Or he is real. He's a real person, but he's not who you think he is. He's some scammer in Jamaica or I don't know, Russia or China or Africa. Who knows? He's some scammer somewhere. He's not a real person. He's not the person you think he is. And so she was a money mule, and now she's a convicted felon.
You know, Marie, this highlights for us how desperately lonely people are and the lengths to which they will go to seek that attention.
That's exactly right.
You just said it. That was her sole motivation, I should say. Her sole motivation was, I am getting attention. Maybe it's daily, maybe it's several times a day. And that feels good to
It
feel
does.
wanted.
It does.
Um, you know, my nonprofit, we have a program that addresses elder isolation and elder loneliness for this very reason. There are myriad reasons why anybody's lonely. Our foundation is specifically, you know, targeting the elder population and trying to bring them into the technology age with a free service that we offer. I'll tell you guys can find out more about it. I'm going to drop it in the link below the video. But man, it's as we continue, I want you to continue to talk about uh, from the SBI's approach and vantage point. What are some of the biggest the scams that cause the biggest losses? And I mean, not only the financial loss, but even the emotionally what is lost.
Yeah. So I'll kind of start at the top. In North Carolina last year in 2023, investment scams cost victims in North Carolina $79 million.
Oh,
Those are typically in the form of what's been lately termed pig butchering. Now, that's a nasty term, and I want to make it clear that law enforcement did not come up with that. The people who came up with that term are the scammers because that is their goal. Their goal is to fatten up their victims and then slaughter them. That's why they came up with that term. So, what we're seeing in the pig butchering realm right now is oftentimes these are text message and these are initiated via text message. So we've all gotten that text message that says, "Hey, Steven, can you give me a call real quick?" And I would think to myself, I'm clearly not Steven. Why are you texting me? You might text back, "Sorry, wrong number," or you might just ignore it. When they get a response, "Sorry, wrong number," their response back would be something like, "Well, I was calling to tell my friend Steven about this great deal that I have, or this new investment that I have," or well, you might not be Steven, but you seem nice. Where are you from? Where do you live? And suddenly they've initiated a conversation with somebody who they don't even know.
mhm.
And so individuals, not just older adults, but individuals are receiving these phishing scams, these phishing text messages, and they are responding to them. They're starting friendships or relationships. And oftentimes it will follow with, "I have this great investment. It's in cryptocurrency. You only have to give X amount of dollars to get involved." What they're doing is they're sending their victims to fake websites, fake trading platforms. So they'll receive initial funds from their victims and they will set up accounts for their victims to let them think that they have invested in something. Oftentimes it's cryptocurrency. And they'll send them to a website, they'll give them a login and a password. They think it's legitimate. Oftentimes they look pretty legitimate, and you'll see almost like a stock ticker. A lot of times you'll see the up and down lines of where your investment is increasing. And the problem comes when you're ready to get out. So you put a lot of money in, they keep convincing you to put money in, and then you might say, "Okay, look, my $100,000 has gone to $600,000. I'm ready to cash out." And the scammer, who you've now probably consider a friend, the scammer is going to say, "Well, you've not put in enough money. We don't allow our investors to get out until they've reached this certain threshold. So you'll have to put some more in before you can get out, or you'll have to pay a fee before you can get out." And eventually the victim realizes that it's a scam, and sometimes the website just disappears into thin air and our
Ooh.
victims get ghosted. So that's pig butchering. We could spend all day talking about that, but there's a lot of information out there on the internet. But that would be like an investment scam. And like I said, in North Carolina in 2023, victims only in North Carolina lost $79 million to investment scams. So that is our biggest financial loss from a scam standpoint. After that, at 69 million, not much less, is business email compromise. So that wouldn't necessarily apply to our older adults that we're talking about today. That would be more of real estate scams or maybe a business who receives fake wiring instructions for paying a vendor. So that would be another big scam. Right after that is tech support scams at 18 million. So that's going to be you get a pop up on your screen and it says, "Hey, this is Microsoft. You've got a virus. Give us a call. We're going to help you out." Um, that's not typically how Microsoft does business. You may receive a text message that tells you that. Clearly, not the right thing. My mom recently called me because she was on her iPad searching the internet, looking at Facebook, whatever it was, and she said, "I got this pop up that said I have a virus. It's from Microsoft that I have a virus." And I said, "Mom, where was the pop-up at?" And she said, "On my iPad." I said, "Well, your iPad doesn't have Microsoft. So we know that's a scam right away because your iPad is not connected to Microsoft. It's an iOS operating system, not a Windows system." So those tech scams are really costly because they make you think that you have a big virus, and the only way you can fix it is to pay a fee. You let them onto your computer, and then they have free reign of it. They can look at your banking, they can look at your emails, they can add keystroke loggers, which will it's a virus basically that they're logging every time you type in your precious password that is the same on every site that you have,
Mm.
and how they can get into everything. So that would be tech support. Um, the next one is the romance scam or confidence scam. About $16 million was lost in that last year in North Carolina. And I think that one is clearly not the biggest financial loss, but for me, I think that may be the biggest emotional loss. That's the one where, like you were talking about earlier, where older adults in particular are lonely, they're isolated, and they may look to online dating or just online friendships. Oftentimes they're on social media trying to reconnect with old high school buddies or the guy they served in the military with or somebody from when they were, a child, and they're trying to connect with some of those people. And in the midst of that, which is good, all that is good, connecting with people that you might not be down the street from, that's all good. But in the midst of that, there's a lot of bad actors who pretend to be people that they aren't. They might say that they're a five-star general or a surgeon. Typically, they're widowers or single dads or single moms. They're always beautiful people, and
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
drawn to that. We're drawn to those things. And so I think that the romance, the confidence scams, I think those are the ones that are the most emotionally damaging for the victims, even though they may not be the biggest financial loss.
Mhm.
Um, I'll give you a really terrible example. Recently, I got a call from a family member of a victim of a romance scam, and they said she's spending all her time talking to this man. It was her son who called. She's spending all her time talking to this man, and we don't know what to do about it. We've told her he's a scammer, that he's not real. Um, they're like, in real life, this guy probably would not be interested in my mom. And we've tried to explain that to her as kindly as we can, but we don't really know what else to do. This lady left her husband of 30 years to
Oh,
pursue a relationship with this person she's
oh,
known. Yeah.
no.
And it was all fake. So I did something I don't typically do, and I did a lot of research trying to figure out exactly how this scam profile had developed. And what I found was that I don't know who the scammers are. My guess is that they're probably in Nigeria or maybe Ghana. I don't know how the scammer evolved, but I do know how they made the profile. They went into Facebook and Instagram. They found a South American man who was a gym rat. He always had his pretty much naked body out there for the world to see. And they stole all his photographs. They stole his pictures. They stole his photographs. They turned those into a fake profile. And using those pictures that were on his open page, they sent those to my victim as intimate photographs because he kind of had it all out there for the world to see. And but when she received them, she thought he was providing her intimate photographs because they are in a relationship. But the truth is, those are just pictures that were stolen off the internet. They could have even AI generated some things, and she probably wouldn't know the difference. It would be hard for me to know the difference. So, um, I mean, what a damaging situation for her marriage, her children, her grandchildren. And it has completely fractured this family because she is not in touch with reality.
Yeah. Yeah. My goodness. Yeah. It's devastating. It's devastating. Lives are completely upended and devastated. Um, Before we keep going, I thank you for that story. I mean, you just really bring it home, telling about the impacts of these scams. And they're not penny ante scams. This
No.
is not just, my gosh. And,
Yeah.
there's so many bad things that are going on, so many bad people who are out there doing things, and they're using the same technology that others are using to do good with.
That's right.
And that's where there's so much discernment. There's so much that has to go into when you're engaging on this platform. You have to always be engaging with the lens of, you can tell me anything because I don't know it's the truth. And
That's right.
just because you've told me something doesn't mean it's the truth. Now, people might say, well, that's a very cynical way to look at things. Um, you can, and I get that too, but maybe you can balance it out with a trust but verify approach
Right.
so
And I
that it's
think
not
too,
so cynical.
right. And I think too, the people that we should be maybe trusting are the people that we can see face to face, the things that are real that we can touch, that we can sit down and have lunch with, that we can, go on a vacation with, like our family members, not just somebody that's just randomly popped up on the internet. And one of the things I often show these scam victims that I speak to is I show them a picture of myself. It's a makeup free selfie. And with a free app and one click of a button, I can turn myself into what looks like a man. And I show them those photographs side by side because their response to me is always, I know that she's real because I talked to her on video chat. So I know that she's real. And so I'll show these pictures
Woo!
side by side and I'll say, here's me. Here's me with one click of a button transformed into a man with short hair, a beard, a mustache. Um, if I can do this with one click of a button, what do you think that I can do with all your money that you sent me and some sophisticated software? And I'll show them me as an older lady side by side. One click of a button, I can totally transform myself into whatever I want to be. What more can I do with sophisticated technology or artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
And um, sometimes that kind of puts things into perspective for people, but even then, people still don't believe me, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, and it goes to the heart wants what it wants.
Yep,
And that is, you look at all of the different scams, there's money involved in all of them.
right,
But in the romance one, that confidence one, that goes to a part of us that is so powerful. And no matter what value you put on your finances, and a lot of people put great value on their finances,
right,
I would venture out to say that if you compared the two at the same level, so great amounts of money and a great investment, a great heart investment in someone,
Oh, yep.
the heart one is going to take you down far worse than the finances.
Yeah.
Even at an older age where it's there's not a lot of time to recoup those monies and rebuild, it still is going to pale in comparison to um, that heart trauma.
Loneliness. Yeah.
hmm hmm I wanted to go back also and talk about the tech support one. This was years ago. It's over 10 years now. And I think I almost got scammed. And I believe it was the grace of God that got me out of this scam. So long story short, I called for tech support help. And I think it was like to put on a security layer on this was my desktop computer. So just telling you how long ago it was. And it was at
Yeah.
home. Somehow I got connected to this person. They had a Facebook post. They had all these things. Now in hindsight, I'm thinking, this guy isn't real. But everything looked real. Long and short of it is, I sent him $400
Mm.
to clean up my computer had slowed down so much. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this off. And we talked on the phone. So we actually talked live. And this is what triggered me to know that, oh my gosh, I'm actually in the middle of a scam. And I think I'm a relatively intelligent person. But I was like, oh my gosh, I could hear he was in like a call center type environment because I could hear a lot of talking.
Yeah.
And so that didn't alarm me. But here's what alarmed me. Somehow he started talking about a person who was in the call center with him who was scamming people. Like he started telling me, oh
Because
man,
they're so proud of themselves.
this had to be Marie. I'm telling you, I know it was God's grace that even made this man start to reveal stuff to me in the middle of the transaction. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no. And he was saying, don't ever work with, and he said this, it was a woman's name. Don't ever work with this woman. She's a scammer. And I'm saying, what? You're sitting right by her. So this is what I'm thinking. Anyway, I had sent the money out, or I tried to send the money out, and it wouldn't go.
Oh, thank the Lord.
That's what I'm saying. I know it was the grace of God. I know that it was. I tried it two or three times, and it wouldn't go the first time. It wouldn't go the second time. It might have gone the third time. We talked. I called him, and then like a day or so later, I called him back because I was like, man, I just got scammed. I called him back, but he answered. I was like, what? And whatever, I don't even remember. Again, it was a long time ago. Do you know he sent my money back?
Wow.
It was God. I just know it.
That is for sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, after that, I was like, are you crazy? Don't you ever do that again. But in the moment, he was so personable. And it wasn't like I was um a, a friendship. I was calling for
Right.
help desk support, but he
Right.
was so personable. I even gave him remote access to my computer. Like I did all the crazy things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of it, I got my money back. I just like I went in there and I removed everything that he had put on my computer. I just was like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
it can happen, guys, and it can happen to people who are not elderly and lonely, just like
Right.
Marie was saying earlier. And even though I guess you could say I was vulnerable because I needed to get my computer fixed, but I wasn't desperate.
Right.
I could have had other ways of doing that, but they are very skilled, is what we're trying to say to you. They're
That's
they're
right.
highly skilled, okay, and they know how to manipulate and navigate any scenario that you throw them. Like Marie says, they call you on the phone. They know they don't know who you are, but they can twist it on the drop of a dime, twist it and start reeling you in.
Yep.
So caregivers, please keep an eye as much as possible. We know you need to let your elderly loved ones have as much um, independence as they can, because it's waning, right? They're becoming more and more dependent on us. But you want to keep their dignity intact, but we want to keep them protected. And sometimes that means looking over their shoulder a little bit. And you can do that in ways that is not, intrusive, and is not um, undignified to them,
Right.
right? You don't have to do it right in their faces. When they go and take a nap or something, you can look at their phone. You can, or even try to get their code, and telling them that it's not that you're trying to be nosy, but you are trying to protect them. And as their caregiver, whoever you are, you need to make sure that that trust is there with you,
Right.
so that they feel that they're not out here on their own, or having these secret, relationships, which, oh my gosh, I just thought of something, and I'm talking too much here, but if people are hiding relationships from you, I would venture to say, check the relationship that you have with them. So not focusing on, oh my gosh, what are you doing? This is crazy. Stop doing this. Get down to the real nitty-gritty on what kind of relationship and rapport do I actually have with my elderly loved one, that they would hide this from me?
Yeah. What am I not doing to support that person? How can I support you more? How can I be here for you more? Are you feeling lonely? What can I do to help you with that? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
gosh.
I think another thing that a caregiver should could do to help an older adult is very simple, and this is good for people who maybe aren't necessarily a caregiver. For even for my own mom, I'll say, "Hey mom, let me check your Facebook settings to make sure that you have privacy controls in place."
That's very
And I just did that for myself because we all know that Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media you're on, that sometimes their privacy settings change, and you have to check in every once in a while. What you thought might have been private may not be private anymore. And so as if I look at mine and I check my privacy settings, I'm then going to turn around and say, "Hey, mom, I just checked my Facebook settings recently because they did some updates. Let me
mhm,
check your privacy settings and make sure that
mhm,
everything's okay."
mhm,
Um, and at that point, you can make sure that their friends are private. You could even um, make it so that they can't receive a friend request from anyone who they don't have another friend in common. Something like that. So there's a lot of settings in there that you could help them with that they may not necessarily understand. I think that by trying to make your social media as private as possible, you're also limiting what a scammer can see, and they're trying to find somebody to target. So if they can look at your profile and it says that you're single or you're widowed or you're divorced, or it's a picture of you with your grandkids or you with a dog. Now what am I going to do as a scammer? I know you're alone. I know you're single. I know that you have children and grandchildren, so I know that there's a spot in your heart for that. I know
mhm,
that you love animals, so I'm going to use a profile to attack you, for lack of a better word. That's what it is. They're attacking.
mhm,
To attack you, I'm going to have a single person who's also widowed, who maybe has a son or daughter or a grandkid. I'm going to have a pet in my photo because I know you love dogs. So I'm going to have a pet in my photo. If you've got, you're kayaking, I might be sitting on a kayak. That's what I'm going to find what I can to try to stick my fingers in there and connect with you.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so when you make an older adult's Facebook profile or whatever social media platform, if you make it as private as possible, you're going to be able to limit some of the exposure that they have to scammers. It's going to be a little bit harder for the scammer to find a foothold in there. So I think that's something very simple. It's not intrusive, that a caregiver can do to try to look out for their loved one.
mhm. No, that is helpful. Um, was there another type of scam? I think of these kidnapping scams that are popping. Like people are
Yes.
saying crazy stuff like that.
Yes. So coming in at number five at $11 million are government impersonators, or maybe like that would be the jury duty scam, the IRS, you didn't pay your taxes, or this is the police. I don't remember if grandparent scam was lumped in there or not, but like what you're talking about is kind of more of the grandparent scam thing. And that might be you pick up the phone, an unknown number, which I would never suggest doing. Let it go to voicemail. So if you're a caregiver, set up voicemail for your loved one and make sure they understand how to use it so that and put all their contacts in their phone that they need. Put their doctor's office in there, put the hospital's phone number in there, whatever typical calls at the church, whatever typical calls they would get,
Mhm.
not just people, but also organizations that they may get phone calls from. So I always tell people, don't answer the phone if you don't know who it's from. Let it go to voicemail. If it's that important, they're going to leave you a message. So, but we see adults all the time, even young adults, picking up the phone to numbers that they don't know.
Mhm.
So the grandparent scam might sound something like, "Hey, Grandma, it's me, Billy," and you're like, "Billy? That doesn't sound like you." Well, I'm in trouble. I need your help. I've been in a car accident, or I got arrested for drugs, or whatever it happens to be. There's some
Mhm.
emergency. And then they'll say, I need you to send me money. Or the thing that I've been hearing a lot of lately is somebody's going to come pick up money.
Mm.
Somebody's going to call you to arrange a pickup. I need you to go get $10,000 cash from the bank, and somebody's going to come pick it up. Um, So that might be a person who calls and says, "Hey, I'm an attorney for your grandson, Billy." Billy, of course,
Ugh.
asked you not to tell his parents, so you've not called his parents, which should be your number one call. And I'm the attorney. It's going to be $10,000 for me to get Billy out of jail. I'm going to send somebody to pick it up from you. When will you have it ready? And these older adults, these elderly individuals are going to the bank. They're pulling $10,000 out of the bank, which is scary enough that they're walking out the door of the bank with $10,000, much less the fact that then they're giving their address and somebody, Lord knows who, is showing up at their house to pick up that money,
Oh,
um, and driving away with it into oblivion. And um,
damn.
we're seeing where oftentimes it's a courier, so maybe an Uber driver, a Lyft driver, somebody who's been hired to go do a pickup
Oh.
and then take it to whatever location they've been assigned to take it to. But there's also actual criminals who are showing up at the door of some older adult's home and saying, "Where's that 10 grand at?" I heard one where they opened up their door and let the courier into their home.
Mm.
And I just think about what could have happened if they said, "Oh, I changed my mind. I'm not going to give you this $10,000." What would if that person is an actual criminal and not just an innocent Uber driver who happened to pick up the wrong ride? Um, what
Mm-mm-mm.
could have happened? They could have been physically harmed besides just losing their $10,000. So that's kind of that grandparent kidnapping scam.
Mhm.
One of the common threads in all of these scams is it's an emergency. You got
Right,
to do this right now.
right.
If you don't do this right now, you're going to miss out on the investment. If you don't do this right now, you're not going to get the lottery money. If you don't do this right now, I'm not going to be able to fly home and see you and live happily ever after with you. If you don't
Mhm.
do this right now, your kid's going to stay in jail. Do you want your kid to stay in jail?
Mhm.
Um, there's always an emergency. It's got to go, got to go, got to go. That's a huge red flag.
Mhm.
So, but that's what they do. Like you said earlier, they're con artists. They're good at what they do.
Mhm.
They know what to say to push people's buttons or to hit their emotions right on the head where they need them, and
Mhm.
that's how they get what they want.
Wow. It's frightening to know that um, so many seniors are being targeted. Everyone's being targeted. It seems just more egregious for the seniors, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this has been so good, Marie. I mean, I've learned a ton
Good.
and I knew some things in this space. So this has been extremely helpful, and I hope everybody else is listening closely and putting in a plan. You guys put a plan together for how you're going to help your loved one, your elderly loved one, and yourself going forward. And there are easy ways. Marie has just kind of outlined some really great ways to do this that is not intrusive, which is paramount in trying to oversee what they're doing without them feeling like they're being treated like a child, right?
Right.
So you've gone over a lot of the red flags that the caregivers can look for. Uh, where can these scams be reported? What does that look like?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different options for reporting scams. If you've not sustained a loss, I would say you're probably okay not to report it.
Mhm.
Um, Law enforcement agencies, they're receiving enough reports of scams without receiving scam reports where no loss actually happened. So if you get that pop up on your uh, iPad that says this is Microsoft and you have a virus, let's all just move on from that. We don't need to actually let law enforcement know about that. But if you have sustained a loss, one of the best places to report that is ic3.gov. And I've given Donna that link, and so I'm sure she can pop that in the show notes as well, along with some other phone numbers. So ic3.gov is the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Internet Crime Complaint Center. And what that allows you to do is enter any of the information that you have about the way that you've been scammed. So phone numbers, Facebook profiles, email addresses, whatever names, whatever it happens to be. And what they're looking for is they're looking for patterns. They're looking for patterns of
Mm,
these 50 individuals were all targeted by the same scheme with the same identifiers. You know, the money all went to the same bank account or cryptocurrency wallet or whatever it happens to be. We're gonna look into that one. So I tell people you would submit it on ic3.gov. You're likely not going to hear back from anybody,
mhm,
but it's being used by the FBI to try to track these criminals and do what we can.
mhm,
Oftentimes, our hands are tied because everything goes overseas, and that's a huge difficulty for us to do anything with government agencies in a country that may not really like the U.S. or want to cooperate with the U.S. So I always tell people don't send more money than you can afford to lose because odds are you're not going to get it back. And that's the tough part to hear, but odds are you're not going to get it back. So IC3 is a great place to report it.
mhm.
You can also call the National Elder Fraud Hotline, and that number is 1-833 fraud 11. And that number I think is really good because you can talk to an actual person. So even if you're just not sure if it's a scam, you could call and talk it through with somebody. The North Carolina Attorney General also has a complaint line. That's 1-877-5-NO-SCAM. And so you can report things there. They also have an online complaint form. Of course, you can report it to your local police department. I think the best place to report things is to your bank. And if you are being scammed, whether you've sent money or you thought about sending money, your account got compromised or you feel like your email got hacked, let your bank know. They can flag your account. They can make sure that no transactions go out that are suspicious. If you have been scammed, be honest with them. Go into your branch, sit down and talk with the branch manager and say, look, here's the deal. Here's what happened. I need some help. I need a new account opened. This person could have my account number. They could have my social security number or my driver's license number, whatever other identifiers you may have provided them. Make your bank aware so that they can help protect you. And I promise you that the bank has dealt with this situation before and they will know exactly what to do. So make sure you tell your bank. And I think most importantly, make sure that you tell your loved ones because you may feel very embarrassed that this happened to you. I can promise you that you're not the only one that this has happened to. I've seen stories of attorneys and neurosurgeons and teachers and sanitation workers and stay at home moms, you name it. Everybody in the world is a target to be scammed in some way, shape, or form. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. It's actually something that I feel that we should be vulnerable about. If you've been scammed, tell your neighbor, tell your sister, tell the ladies at church. Make sure that they know this is out there, this is what happened to me, and here's how for it not to happen to you. So I think telling your loved ones, telling your caregiver is just very important. It's a hard step. It's probably harder to tell your loved one that you've been scammed than it
Mhm.
is to tell the police or a stranger that you've been scammed. So, but I think that's an important step. And then if you are maybe a caregiver or just somebody who knows an older adult who may not have family around, you can also report things to county DSS, especially if they may be involved in the care of an older adult. So that's always another place that you can let know that somebody's being scammed if you're not the actual victim yourself. So
Yeah,
those would be some of the places I think you could report it.
that is great. And DSS is Department of Social Services?
Department of Social Services, yes.
Okay.
So they're
Perfect.
adult protective services group
Mhm.
in each county, and so if there's an older adult who maybe is being neglected, financially exploited, or also they just need to be checked on because maybe they have some diminished capacity and
Mhm.
they don't have family around or they have not great family around, you could report things to the local DSS. So
Those are those wellness checks? Is that what that
yes,
is? Ah,
yes,
perfect. Okay. Marie, thank you. Such good
absolutely.
information, and it's gonna help a lot of people. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
So thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.